Hello, my name is Zach Sawatsky, and this is my social-ecological framework on the potential impact if Vail Resorts builds a housing complex on the Bighorn sheep's wintering range on the Gore Range in Colorado. First off, I'll start with the human anthropogenic factors. First, we'll start with habitat fragmentation. This is a big impact factor for the bighorn sheep in this area. It is a leading cause of population decline in the bighorn sheep. Habitat fragmentation would lead to a direct cause of habitat loss for the bighorn, as well as they would lose food resources, access to food resources with the development of this housing complex. Next, the population would decline because habitat being lost, that's a direct impact to the environment, and the habitat most likely won't return to suitable bighorn sheep habitat. And then, as well as population decline, it's also endangering a keystone species. The bighorn sheep are a keystone species in this terrain in Colorado, and when the bighorn sheep are doing well, other species and wildlife are doing well also. This housing development, if it goes through, will also cut off access to steep terrain that the sheep like to escape to when they feel threatened or need to travel to different areas on the mountain. And then finally, for habitat fragmentation, the risk of disease transmission from domestic sheep. Bighorn sheep will travel up to 40 to 60 miles in a short time, and in that short time, if they cross paths with a domestic sheep who could potentially have pathogens that would be passed over to the wild sheep population, that could be detrimental to the wild herd and continue to spread disease amongst the wild herd and continue to hurt the population of bighorn sheep in the area. Next, we'll move down to pollution. Pollution is a direct impact to loss of food source depending on the type of pollution. Population decline due to pollution, as well as endangering the keystone species in bighorn sheep with noise pollution, human disturbance, driving the animals out of the area, could cause an uprise in invasive plant species growing in an unsustainable manner. Next on my human factors, we have increased human disturbance. Increased human disturbance would push wildlife out of the area, so that would result in an environmental factor and habitat loss. Increased human disturbance would also cut off the access to the steep terrain that the sheep like to escape to. And then finally, for a third connector for the increased human disturbance would be the risk of disease transmission. With more humans in the area, there's more possibility of domestic sheep herds with farmers and such, and it increases the chances of a wild bighorn sheep coming into contact with a domestic sheep who has pathogens that can spread to the wild sheep herd and cause disease throughout the wild sheep herd. Next is human encroachment. With more humans in the area, there's more humans recreating amongst the area, and the growth of the human footprint expands into the environment. So we have population decline, loss of terrain to the steep escape, or lost access to the steep escape terrain, Again, risk of disease transmission, endangering the keystone species, and habitat loss for human encroachment. Increased human footprint would have similar connecting factors to human encroachment. Habitat loss, access to steep escape terrain, and disease transmission from domestic sheep. And then finally, for the human anthropogenic factors, infrastructure that hampers bighorn sheep range. The Gore Range is already being impeded by the Interstate I-70 and other development in that area. And their wintering range is fastly shrinking. So infrastructure that's being developed in that area hampers the bighorn sheep, would result in habitat loss, endangering the keystone species in the bighorn, loss of access to steep escape terrain. And then for habitat loss as an ecological factor, it would be a direct loss of food source. It would result in population decline, and also this would endanger the keystone species as well as other species in the area, which could just continue to unravel for the environment. But this is the potential impact of Vail Resorts. Ends up building that employee housing complex on the bighorn sheep's wintering range in the Gore Range Mountains, just off I-70 in Colorado. And these are the human and ecological / environmental factors that would potentially be an outcome if the proposed housing complex is developed. Thank you.